anywhere. It's up to you, New York, New York.
How we doing, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast here on Facebook Live and YouTube. I am your host, Richie, and on today's show, we're going to be hitting on the NFC North. Riding solo today, my guys are exhausted. They've been working, they've been doing so much, but I am more than confident with doing this show on the solo tip and give myself a chance to really analyze and hopefully not get tired of my own voice. But the NFC North, definitely one of the more historic divisions in all of professional football. This is a division that is home to the team in Wisconsin, Titletown, USA. Green Bay Packers have the most NFL championships. 13 total, 9 of those pre-merger, 4 Super Bowl trophies. One of the most storied, if not the most storied franchise in the National Football League. And, Matt LaFleur, his winning percentage in his still a pretty young football career, up there with the best of the best in that organization's history, talking about guys like Curly Lambeau and, of course, Vince Lombardi, who the championship trophy is named after. You got a Chicago Bears team that possibly finally has their franchise quarterback. They are, in the Super Bowl era, one, if not the only team that has never truly had the franchise quarterback. Jim McMahon had a couple of years of excitement. They had that legendary team in '85. But the Bears, arguably the greatest running back of all time in Walter Payton, but have never truly had the franchise quarterback. Is Caleb Williams in year 2 going to prove that he is that guy? Time will reveal that. And a long anticipated debut finally coming very soon for J.J. McCarthy, former national champion at Michigan Wolverines last year, had multiple knee surgeries, so never actually took a snap last season, as he saw Sam Darnold, who is now with the Seattle Seahawks, lead the team to a 14-win campaign. Unfortunately, not good enough to win the North last year and not good enough to win a playoff game, as he was under duress in that particular game against the Los Angeles Rams. And we have the resurgent Detroit Lions under Dan Campbell, a reclamation project of sorts with Jared Goff. Last year, they had the best record in the National Football League, but had no playoff win to show for it, as they died in the divisional round to the Washington Commanders, who lost the NFC title game last year to the Philadelphia Eagles. It was an all-East NFC title game last year. But Detroit has to be in a mindset that it's win now or else, because, the window could potentially be closing. And you remember a couple of seasons ago when this team had the 49ers damn near dead to rights, but they allowed the 49ers back into it. A couple of questionable calls from Dan Campbell, and it's not easy to get back there when you get so close. But we're going to start this up with the Chicago Bears. They finished fourth last year in this division with a record of 5-12, but did have some moments of brilliance with quarterback Caleb Williams. Here are some free agent additions and re-signed players. Really like this pickup, Grady Jarrett fortifying that middle for this team. Drew Dahlman, also a former Falcon. Durham Smythe, tight end from the Miami Dolphins. Quarterback Case Keenum, he's been around a lot. I think he serves as a great mentor. Speedster Devin Duvernay also plays special teams. So giving you guys an opportunity to see who the Bears are bringing back and who they brought in. Got some key player losses here. Colin Johnson to the Raiders. Just kind of letting this go over for a second, give you guys a chance to see. While I let this go over the screen for a second, gotta shout out my New York Giants. I know it's just the preseason, but Jackson Dart, man, really looks like he could potentially be ready to start soon. I know this is not divisional related, but as you all know, I'm a huge Giants fan. And 6-12, probably only one or two passes that were incomplete, not his fault. Touchdown to, it seems like his favorite target, Greg Dulcich, who I believe is going to be splitting reps with Theo Johnson. Russell Wilson, we'll see. It could be a short leash, but I'm very happy because it seems like the New York Giants finally got their man. This is the draft class here for the Chicago Bears. Colston Loveland out of the University of Michigan. Love that pick. Wide receiver Luther Burden giving Caleb Williams a good target there. Round 2 staying there. Ozzie Trapillo out of Boston College. Shamar Turner, definitely a guy that's going to help out that front line. Za Frazier out of UTSA, definitely a long shot, but I'm happy that they went that route and given this kid an opportunity. And I also really like the addition of Kyle Montague out of Rutgers. This is a Bears team that I believe has one of the better offensive lines right now. They are building forward with a pretty good offensive line. I think in the trenches, this is a team that is going to continue to improve. I think ultimately it comes down to Caleb Williams. You know, when you're the number 1 overall pick, and when you see what your other 2 quarterbacks in your rookie class did of notoriety, talking about Bo Nix, and of course, Rookie of the Year on offense, Jaden Daniels, who was 1 game short of the Super Bowl. The pressure is going to be very high on Caleb Williams. But I do think that he could be up to the task. Now, I'll be honest, I wasn't the biggest fan of him out of college, out of USC, but I do believe that he has the ability to grow. And this here is their schedule. It is not the friendliest couple of weeks coming in, as it's right in the division. You got the home opener against those Vikings. Then you have the team that last year had the best record in the league, the Detroit Lions. I think it's safe to say that there's a strong possibility they start off 0-2. The Dallas game could potentially be a must-win. In the 17-game slate, I don't necessarily think that there's a such thing as a must-win in the first month. But I'll be honest, I got them probably going 0-3 before catching their first victory against the Vegas Raiders. Washington Commanders, last year was a classic. The Commanders walked it off on a Hail Mary. I do believe that that's probably a loss. Looking at 1-4, they'll beat the Saints. But my, oh my, Baltimore Ravens, 1-5. New York Giants, I think that's a 50-50 game. As I continue to look at this schedule, it doesn't really have a lot of chill on it. I think this is a tough schedule for this team. And although I do think they're going to be making strides, I don't necessarily think it's going to translate completely into this particular season. I do think they have the ability to split with Green Bay. The Detroit rematch, week 18, possibly win that one, depending on where Detroit and their season lies. I think the 49ers is a 50-50 game. Pittsburgh Steelers, new look Steelers, Aaron Rodgers. I have high confidence in what the Steelers are going to do this year. But when I look at this schedule, it's not the most favorable for the Bears to do too much better than last year. Give me 6 wins, give me 11 losses, but I do think that the Chicago Bears will be competing in a lot of these games. But, similar to other first-round picks that were number 1 overall, you look at a guy like Alex Smith, you look at a guy like Carr, Big Brother Carr. There's so much pressure when you are that person for an organization. And unless if you're Peyton Manning or somebody in that cloth, it seems like, the word bust will get thrown out or people will say that they reached for him. I think the thing that I have a hard time wrapping my head around is that from the eye test, when I look at what Jaden Daniels was at LSU with Malik Neighbors and co., there was no mystery that he was going to be a can't-miss prospect. But with Caleb Williams, I never felt the same way. I felt that he was a first-round talent, but I don't believe that it was – I don't think there's any scenario where I could have drafted him over Jaden Daniels. Maybe Bo Nix. I'll admit Bo Nix made a believer out of me. But not Jaden Daniels. Like to jump him. And you see what Jaden Daniels did last year, so we'll see. We'll see. And I do think that the Commanders are going to have a tougher go this year because they're not catching anybody off guard this year. Green Bay Packers, Papa's Packers, my late father's favorite team, finished 3rd in the NFC North last year with a record of 11-6. They did lose to the Philadelphia Eagles in round 1, and they had their chances to capitalize, but a lot of self-inflicted mistakes in that game, and also in the opener when they played those same Eagles in Brazil last year. Got some free agent additions and re-signed players. Quarterback Nate Hobbs, the Raiders. Guard Aaron Banks, formerly of the 49ers. Tight end John Fitzpatrick is re-signed. McCole Hardman becoming the NFL journeyman. They're getting him from the Chiefs. This here is a player that I think highly of my New York Giants, Isaiah Simmons. He is a person that you could put anywhere on the field. And I do believe that he can be a huge benefit to what they do as being kind of like a hybrid Mike. Also plays in safety scenarios, has great hands, and phenomenal athlete. Player I didn't necessarily want the Giants to get rid of, but given the depth and the direction of what Shane Bowen's defense is doing, he was the odd man out. I think he's going to do very well here, and for the first time in his career could possibly find a defined role. I think it's something with Isaiah Simmons that he's never truly been able, even going back to Arizona, he was drafted high, to have that defined goal. I think with this particular situation in Green Bay, he will find that. Got some key player losses here. None bigger than Jair Alexander, the often injured quarterback, is now a Baltimore Raven, joining, in my opinion, the most talented roster in the entire NFL. Andre Dillard, the tackle, he is now a 49er. Corey Ballentine, a guy that has been around for a while. He's going to the Colts, or rather, they bring him back from the. I got a little tongue-tied there. Sorry about that. Just bear with me. Let me let this pass over one more time as I'm reading this through. Yeah, Corey Ballentine with the Colts. Center Josh Myers going over to the Jets. I already mentioned Andre Dillard is a 49er. Running back A.J. Dillon, I'm not really sure what is up with his career at this juncture. This is a guy that suffered way too many injuries. But definitely a player that does have value in the sense of the short game, in the sense of when you're at the doorstep. But in that Eagles offense, and with the injury history and Saquon's historic season, he kind of got buried on that depth chart and just wasn't able to get right. Their draft class, Marcus Golden out of Texas. Could this be the legitimate number one that quarterback Jordan Love needs? I think so. I think he checks the boxes. Anthony Belton out of North Carolina State to tackle. Savion Williams, this is interesting. So they're going receiver twice in the first 2 rounds, which means that they are looking for those alpha dogs in that receiving room. This is a team that has gotten contributions from a lot of different guys, but nobody as that predominant alpha dog. You have 2 potential guys right now that are on rookie deals that could be those players. Yeah, Marcus Golden, if you're a fantasy player, don't be afraid to take him. I think he's going to do very well this year. Edge Barron Sorrell out of Texas. Is the Packers defense going to be better than last year? I think it's a question. One thing that I have admired about this team over the years is I think schematically they are one of the best teams in the league on that side of the ball, overcoming injuries and letting players thrive in their system. I do expect the Packers to be a top 12 to 13 defense. I don't think they will crack the top 10. My biggest concern about their overall success and how far they can go ultimately comes down to quarterback Jordan Love, who I believe to a level regressed after last season. This right here is their schedule. We've got week 1, home for Detroit. A game that truly could go either way. Detroit has had their number in recent meetings. I do believe that they catch the W week 2 against the Commanders. As week 1 goes, like I said, 50-50 game. You're getting Cleveland and you're getting them early. That's a plus for the Packers. Anybody playing in Cleveland later in the year, I think it's tougher. But this is a team that's not afraid to play in the elements either. At Dallas, a place that they have had decent success, and Jordan Love engineered that big upset victory 2 years ago, becoming the first 7 seed to advance. And, the 7 seed is relatively a new thing with the expanded playoffs. They get an early bye week 5. Week 6 at home for the Cincinnati Bengals. Something very historic happened in a Green Bay Packer Cincinnati Bengal game. It's the first time that Brett Favre was called upon. When Magic Man Majowski went down and Favre went on to shatter the consecutive games streak, as well as many other records, which some have come down since. Arizona Cardinals, I think the Cardinals are in a good direction where they're going to be a much better team. That's not going to be easy. They see their old franchise quarterback week 8. That's going to be must-see TV, and it's on Sunday Night Football as they play the Pittsburgh Steelers, one of the more storied franchises. I'm meeting there 2 of the biggest ones. Carolina, much improved, cannot sleep on them. Home for the Eagles. That'll be a fun game to watch as well. I'm looking forward to week 11 when the Giants welcome them into the Meadowlands. I think this is a tough schedule. I think in general, this division draws a tough schedule, similar to how the NFC East is going to be drawing a tough schedule. I think the Packers are a fringe playoff team, but I don't think that they're going to exceed last year's win total. As a matter of fact, I think it's going to be less than last year. Give me 9-8 fringe 10-win team. Let me see if I can find 10 wins here. No. Give me 9-8, and I'm being generous. I still think the Packers are not 100% sure moving forward if Jordan Love is definitely the guy. And we'll see how this plays out. But if he isn't the guy, It would be one of the first strikeouts in a long time for the Packers because the Packers have always been blessed at the quarterback position. 9-8, fringe wild card team, possibly 10 wins, but I'm leaning towards 9. The Minnesota Vikings last season finished 14-3, but just such a disappointing finish to their season. They lost to the Rams in the first round, and it's so very rare when you have a team that wins that amount of games that loses in the first round. But with the 7 seeds now, it is a higher propensity for it to happen a little more often. I mean, 14 wins didn't even win their division, which is really crazy. Free agent additions, re-signed players, fullback Giovanni Ricci, he's a Patriot. Outside linebacker Cam Gill is a Panther. Tight end, well-traveled Nick Vannett is a Titan, or formerly a Titan. These are all guys that they brought in. Wide receiver Ronald Moore, formerly of the Falcons. Inside linebacker Eric Wilson is a Packer. Quarterback Jeff Okudah of the Texans, now over here in Minnesota. Byron Murphy re-signed. Will Fries, the Colts, former player there. Let you guys see what they're doing. Key player losses. Quarterback Sam Darnold. He had a huge year, but I think the jury's still out on if he can win when it counts. Quarterback Daniel Jones. He was there for part of the season, did not see the field. Patrick Jenkins is in Carolina now. Garrett Bradbury is the center in New England, but not for long, as they went to Ohio State as well. Shaquille Griffin, formerly the Seahawks. Whereas I should say back to the Seahawks. Fabian Moreau, player that I enjoyed when the Giants had him, guy that I was a little disappointed that they let go of. Here's their draft class. Donovan Jackson, arguably the best interior lineman in this draft out of OSU. Round 3, wide receiver Ty Felton out of Maryland. Tyrion Ingram Dawkins out of Georgia, the defensive lineman. Linebacker Kobe King out of Penn State. And round 6, tight end Gavin Bartholomew out of Pittsburgh. Strong draft, if you ask me. I think the Minnesota Vikings coming into this season are in a healthier place than the team that outdid them last year in this division. I think the Vikings have a top 3 offensive line. I think their defense does not get nearly the credit that they deserve. And I believe that this is a team that if J.J. McCarthy can come out and be the cerebral quarterback that he is, he doesn't necessarily have to light up the world. He has some awesome help with a veteran in the backfield like an Aaron Jones. And then you have the combo of Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson. Unfortunately, Addison is going to miss the first 3 weeks of the season due to a suspension. But if the Vikings are able to weather the storm early in the year, this is a team that could be fighting for this division, should be fighting for this division, and at minimum is the second best team in this division. I personally think this is the year that the Vikings jump the Lions. The Lions, I'm going to get on them in a moment. They did lose 2 key coordinators to other teams as both Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson take over coaching jobs. Of course, Ben Johnson here in this division with the Bears, Aaron Glenn in East Rutherford, New Jersey with the New York Jets. And here goes the schedule. I'm going to say W. I think this team's going to be 3-0 when they face the guy that they didn't want in Aaron Rodgers. I thought for sure Aaron Rodgers was going to pull the full Favre and go to Minnesota. 5-0. First loss could potentially be against the Philadelphia Eagles after the bye week, and it could also be a win. I'll give the Eagles the edge there out of respect for the fact that they are the world champions. LA Chargers is going to be a good one. Wouldn't be shocked if the Vikings win that. My expectations for the Chargers are a little lighter with the Rashawn Slater loss for the year. At Detroit and versus Detroit, similar conditions. It's indoors. place that I think they both feel comfortable playing, I'll say a home and home swap. They each win on their respective fields. Baltimore Ravens going to be a good one. I'll give the Ravens the edge, even though it is in Minnesota. I got this team sweeping the Bears. I got this team sweeping the Packers. Week 13, 12th man, never easy. And they're going to be facing their former quarterback, Sam Darnold. So that could potentially be an L there, going to be a dangerous one. Dallas Cowboys, week 15. I think the Cowboys will be ready for the task. It's also a primetime game. Giants got some payback after the embarrassment that they suffered last year to this team, but I do not see the G-Men beating this team this year. I think Minnesota is going to have another strong season. I would say no worse than 11 wins, no better than 14. I'm right now, I'm looking at 12, 13 wins for this team. I'm going to go 13-4. 13-4 for the Minnesota Vikings, potentially being the number one seed in this conference, assuming they win the division. I think you know which way I'm going now. And last but not least, the Detroit Lions. Last year, these guys finished 15-2, but had the crushing playoff loss last season to the Washington Commanders. I'm going to start with their draft class first here. Tyreek Williams out of Ohio State. Offensive lineman Tate Ratledge, an excellent pick out of Georgia. Wide receiver Isaac Tesla out of Arkansas. Round 5, they got offensive lineman Miles Frazier out of LSU. The edge rusher from Boise, Ahmad Hassanin. And safety Dan Jackson. All right. Last year, the Detroit Lions had a historic number of players that were injured, and it really cost them in the playoffs. My concern for this particular team is an easy thing. I like Jared Goff, but I don't trust Jared Goff. I also am moderately concerned about the health of David Montgomery after last year. Will he be the same force in the 1-2 punch that he was with Jahmyr Gibbs? That remains to be seen. Coming back from the injury he had, we'll see. Here are some free agent additions. I do like the DJ Reed pickup. This is a team that needed help in the secondary. Khalil Dorsey is coming back. Longtime Eagle Avonte Maddox in certain packages could be a help here. Definitely a scrappy ball player and a guy that I think is going to help this team. God's honest truth, though, I just don't think that this team has the juice that they did a couple of years ago. And when you play deeper into the seasons and when you have those kind of one seed, or the year before they were a game away from the Super Bowl, it takes a lot out of you. When your off season becomes shorter, your season becomes longer, you go through the injuries, as I already alluded to. It is going to be awesome that Aiden Hutchinson should be at full strength all the way through and play at a high level. I think this is a very good football team. I do. However, I am not convinced that they are who other people might assume they're going to be. I'll give them the edge week 1 against the Packers. I got them starting off 2-0. I think they meet their first loss at Baltimore against the Ravens. 3-1. Cincinnati could go either way, shootout style. Give me the Bengals there. Give me the Chiefs at home as well. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, that's going to be a big one. Truly a 50-50 game. As is the next two. But this is a tough slate here. You got Tampa. Starting with Cincinnati, really. Cincinnati, Kansas City, Tampa Bay, Minnesota, Washington, and Philly. That is brutal. That is brutal. I still think this is a playoff team. But, man, are they going to get tested this year? This is a tough schedule. Give me the Lions with a record of 11-6, good enough for second in this division. But I do not think that this is going to be the kind of magic that they had 2 years ago or the kind of expectation that they had last year with the 15-win campaign. Much tougher schedule this year. And I've got the Detroit Lions maybe winning a playoff game, but I don't think that they're going further than that. So let me know what you guys think. Get in the comments. I never go this late on the show. This was kind of an improv thing because I'm going to be leaving the quarters for a little bit and doing some family stuff, celebrating my girlfriend Jen's birthday, which is officially right now. And yeah, just having some downtime with the family. Gonna pick up my little man after school tomorrow and just kind of hang for a few days. Definitely down with some family time. If you haven't already, please make it a point, like and subscribe to the channel, the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast on YouTube. Check out the V Mix, the Vicious Mix with our guy, Idris Salam. Check out the Basement Show also with friend of the show, Johnny Nast. And check out the Bleed Blue Podcast. Yeah, Minnesota Vikings. And I'm sure that my team will be commenting and arguing with me on some of this. I do know that one guy agrees with me at minimum, and that, of course, is my friend Mike Zappi. Can't speak for Idris, Brett, or Shed, but I feel good about this Vikings team. I'll put it to you like this. I feel good about this Vikings team at least until it gets into the playoffs. They have been cursed over the years, and not sure if that's going to continue or not. I basically have two teams from this division going to the postseason. It's the last two teams that I covered. The Vikings, I think, will be in contention for the 1 seed. I think the Lions are a strong wild card. How strong will be revealed. Jared Goff getting up in age too, so this is a year that, if he doesn't do it now, when is he going to do it? Definitely, trash to treasure, so to speak, as the LA Rams gave up on him. And then you see what he did with the Detroit Lions. But the man he got traded for ultimately did win the Super Bowl. But that's another team that I think is going to be very much in the mix for a Super Bowl. Of course, I'm talking about the Los Angeles Rams. I think that team is going to be loaded this year. And if Matthew Stafford's back holds up, they're going to be very dangerous as well. But a little bit of an abbreviated show today. Before I get out of here, got to tip my hat to the Boston Red Sox winning a tough game against my New York Yankees tonight. A little disappointed with the way that played out, but you cannot make the amount of mistakes the Yankees made and expect to win. On the bright side, I did win some money on my Hard Rock ticket. Lastly, thanks to Roman Anthony and the captain, Aaron Judge. Yanks got to get them tomorrow. It is such a tight race right now in the American League East, American League wildcard situation as well. But the Yankees definitely squander an opportunity tonight. But looking forward to tomorrow's game action. Really looking forward to the start of football, as I don't want to get overzealous and do a backflip, but I am so very impressed with what rookie quarterback Jackson Dart has been doing with my New York Giants. So Russell Wilson might have to look over his shoulder. I don't think the leash is going to be that long at all. Also great to see Ken Scatabo on the field. I think this is the lowest I've ever rated the Green Bay Packers on any North preview, as I have always had a bit of a sentimental value for this team because of my late father, who's pictured here with me. Yesterday marks 8 years that I lost my dad, and my dad was the world's biggest Green Bay Packer fan. And I'm happy that he got to see them break the hex on the 29-year side of it, and also got to see a championship later with Aaron Rodgers. If I had the crew here, I had intended on doing a start bench cut featuring Rodgers, Starr, and Favre. And I'll just give you my 2 cents before I call it a night. I would start Bart Starr because in crunch time, he is the best winner. I'm benching Aaron Rodgers as opposed to Brett Favre. I personally like to watch Brett Favre more than Aaron Rodgers when he played. But I think Aaron Rodgers is less susceptible to making a mistake. Ultimately, Brett Favre, as phenomenal as he was in crunch time, I think he cost himself a couple of championships by playing too much hero ball. Star for the start, Rodgers to the bench, Favre for the cut. But how blessed are the Green Bay Packers to have those three quarterbacks? And, you got to hope, if you're a Packer fan, that Jordan Love can live up to the hefty expectations of playing the quarterback position in Wisconsin. Shouts out John Olson, our commissioner. Maybe I'll bring him in on a live next weekend when I'm at my fantasy draft so he could give his 2 cents on his Packers and this division on the whole. But have a great morning, everyone. I am going to get some shut eye, and I am going to set up a nice little parlay for tomorrow now that I'm up on these guys. But talk to you guys soon. Announcements to come for our next show.